Hello and welcome. This is Michael Beach, and you are dialed into the What Are You Doing podcast. This is the show for thought leaders who are investing in the next generation of leadership for their organization. This is also the show for emerging leaders who want to become that next generation of great leadership. Together, we can develop leaders who will in turn develop more leaders and make a difference in our economy and, in fact, make a difference in the world. All of us at Michael Beach Coaching and Consulting are excited to be able to bring you another What Are You Doing podcast episode today. We're really fortunate to do what we do and be able to contribute to the success of forward-thinking, fast-growth companies and help them on their journey as they grow into great companies with great culture. We're especially excited today because we have the opportunity to introduce you to Chad Murray, the founder of Outside the Business Box, a coaching and consulting company located in Argyle, Texas. Chad's an award-winning professional business coach. He's affiliated with the Professional Business Coaches Alliance. He's a former member of the Army National Guard, the U.S. Marine Corps, and he has a track record as a successful entrepreneur who's run a successful construction company that one day he decided to turn over to his in-house management team so he could go focus on helping other entrepreneurs to achieve the same dreams that he's achieved. After his very first year as a coach, Chad won the prestigious PBCA Rookie Coach of the Year award. Chad, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I'm interested to learn what you've got in store for our listeners today. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Michael. It's great to be on this podcast with you. And honestly, kind of a story we didn't even talk about in our prep work here is that my very first call to any business coach ever to learn about to be a business coach was to you.
Wow. I did not realize that. That's
Surprise,
pretty cool.
Huh? And so I when I was looking at the PBCA to see if that's where I wanted to go in my future, I looked on their website, found you. Interesting that you're in Minnesota. I grew up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, by way of Dallas, Texas, and spent my life in both places. Mm-hmm. Parents are divorced when I was a young age, and saw that you're in Arizona. I actually lived in Arizona as a kid for a little bit when my dad was traveling around when they were still married. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, that looks like a guy I should call.
Awesome.
So I called you. You returned the call a day later, and we had a nice talk. And that was my journey into becoming a business coach. Was from the very first interaction with you, turned me on to how I could help people.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, I'm glad to have had a small role in your becoming successful doing this coaching gig. Well, Chad, I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about your coaching and consulting business. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So I actually own one of the largest chimney servicing businesses in the country. We're not just a chimney sweep. I tell people we're like a chimney sweep on steroids because we build them, refurbish them, of course, inspect and sweep them and repairs. I have one of the larger manufacturing chimney cap businesses as part of our business. We ship to all across the country in Canada.
Fantastic.
So it's all encompassing. So, I mean, so my story kind of goes to where after getting out of the Marine Corps, I came to Dallas, Texas. I was washing windows for my own little gig, doing pretty good. And one rainy day, my employee goes, we could be making money if we were chimney sweeps. And I'm like, well, it's like June, 105 degrees out. Why would I want to touch a chimney? And, and all that. My mind just wasn't there. I was doing okay with windows, right?
Yep.
So 2 months later that year, this is 1996, it was 108 outside, and it rained for a full week in August. And we're sitting there in my office, which is essentially a bedroom in my house, and drinking beer going, I'm not making any money this week. And he goes, well, if we were chimney sweeps, we'd be busy today. And I just went, okay, all right, let's take a peek at this business. Well, I had a ladder. I had a truck. I jumped out of airplanes, so I've been climbing on roofs is no big deal.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, well, what's it going to take to get trained? And he already knew it because he was laid off from one. He'd always go back every winter to the same company for like 5 years. So I just, I had to just buy a vacuum and some poles, essentially, and some minor stuff. Didn't cost me very much. And off we went. And lo and behold, 4 or 5 years later, here we are. I retired 6 years ago. built a business. There's a little story to that, actually. I almost died almost 17 years ago and went bankrupt. I mean, my appendix ruptured. I went a whole week at home.
Wow.
And finally, after sitting on the couch, convulsing, something in my head said, well, maybe we ought to go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital. I'd had a ruptured appendix for a week.
Wow.
And at the time, they'd only cultivated the surgery to save my life only like 5 years prior.
Wow.
It was a big deal.
Touch and go, man.
Oh, yeah, completely.
Way too close for comfort.
I was literally shutting down. My body was. So I get there. They saved my life. We ended up, since I was the main and really the only, I had a couple, maybe 3 employees, but I was the main driving force of the business, right? And so we lost everything. And I actually had the bad experience. Employees are stealing from me. When things go bad, some good people still do bad things. And it was one of those scenarios with me. And we ended up just at the time going through what nobody wants to go through.
Right.
Best thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Quite a learning experience, I would imagine.
The pain of that and knowing that I had built a business for 10 years that was worth nothing was upsetting to me.
Sure.
And I decided for about a year I was just going to chill, play golf on Fridays, get my business up and running, and just be me. It was doing well. I was making like $100,000, $125,000. I only had at the time 3 daughters. I have 5 now. And so I just was floating. And then some roofer comes to me and goes, I need you to do a commercial job for me. We love your work. We don't want to use this other company. And I'm just like, I can't. I'm just me. I don't want to grow right now. I was researching. I was doing all the right stuff to figure out for the right time to explode again. And so I told the guy no. And he hounded me for a week. It was really funny. He kept talking about how great work we had done for him. I don't even know who the guy was. Wow. He was like an angel. I had no idea who he was. He kept saying that we had done all this work for him previously. No clue. My wife didn't know who he was. It was really weird. And so I was on the golf course on a Friday with my cousin who's in real estate. I'm telling him about this whole story. And he goes, well, how much would it be if you were to do this job? I said, the only way I could do this job and make real good money because of the profitability in a commercial job is I'd have to make the chimney caps. He goes, well, how much would that be? I go, probably $5,000 to buy the equipment. He just whipped out his credit card and said, just go buy it and pay me back when you get the contract. And I didn't really want to do it, but I was like, how interesting. All of a sudden, that's where my entrepreneur spirit really ramped up.
Sounds like destiny to me.
It was. So that happened in May. Mm-hmm. I bought all the equipment, learned how to build a chimney cap. By the end of the year, I had 4 employees, 4 trucks, was not on the road anymore, and was signing a lease on a retail store.
Fantastic.
And never, ever went back on a truck unless it was an emergency.
Quite a turnaround.
So you fast forward to 6 years ago, I took my best employee who had management experience, who was actually a family friend that I had hired 3 years earlier. And we had been grooming him to be general manager for a little while. He was still out on the road and doing repairs and stuff. So I took him off the road December 1st and just had him mirror me. Now, he already knew the business, the systems and everything going on, but I just had him mirror me to see how I ran the business. And then December 31st, I handed over the key and walked out and just said, don't call me until February 1st because I'm on vacation for 31 days. Rome didn't fall down and nothing happened. As a matter of fact, things went pretty good. And now I just pretty much coach my management team and got bored. There's only so much golf and hunting and watching Netflix and being out in the pool you can really do. Really, I was bored. That sounds like everyone's dream to do it. I'll tell you, everyone, it's boring. There's no life to just going and enjoying yourself like that. You have to have a purpose. Yeah. And one day on a Sunday, we were going to see a kids movie. And my wife's lifelong best friend, they're like sisters. They're closer than sisters. Husband calls me, who always would call me for tips on his business. But he would never listen. It was always that he would call up and say, I know you're going to say I told you so, which, by the way, I never said. Again, he calls me up. He goes, you're going to say I told you so, and I laugh. And he starts talking about his business, and then he starts to cry. His partner, which I told him not to take on, is now breaking off from him and suing him. It's just a big, long, bad story. And so talking to him, another buddy chimes in. I got to talk to you about something. I'm not even done with the one guy. I'm done. I'm on a call. I'll call you back. So I get done with the one guy. I call up this guy. He starts asking me about his business. It's Sunday afternoon. What's going on here? So he's talking to me about his business, and nothing as critical as the first guy, but still questions. Mm-hmm. You know, what do you do? What would you do if I were you? Kind of stuff, you know. I'm not done with his call. Another guy calls me.
Wow.
It was three. This one particular Sunday, 3 in a row in 3 hours.
That's an omen.
I got goosebumps telling the story just right now, honestly. So I get off with him. My wife comes home. I'm on the third guy's call. And she goes, are you still with blank? And I'm like, no, I'm on my third call. And she goes, you ought to do that for a living. And I was sitting right here. And I looked at her and I went, what? A living? In my own business, I'd called consultants. They want to spend a week with you and charge you 10 grand. And I was always like, never going to do it. I didn't even know what a business coach was. That last call, that third guy, when she said that to me in the middle of him talking, I probably like zoned out. The rest of that call was going nowhere. Yeah. My mind was, what am I doing here? My life just literally in a moment just changed.
Yeah.
And so within 24 hours, I'd called you. I was checking on the PBCA. I was looking at other organizations, and there we go.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that story. And thank you for sticking with this and becoming a very successful coach. We're glad that you did. Chad, do you remember at what point in your life or your career you got interested for the first time in leadership?
Well, you know, I was always in sports as a kid, and so leadership was always a kind of a big deal. When I was in the Army National Guard, I graduated as platoon guide. It's kind of one of those things. I never really had that moment of when I wanted to become a real leader. Mm-hmm. I was always kind of just part of my personality, really.
Okay.
That's the truth of the matter when I look back and, you know, try to write a story like we did in prep work. But the fact of the matter is, when I look back at it, just always did. I don't like being the guy in the back seat. You know, I like holding the steering wheel.
Wonderful. Well, I have to imagine that a dynamic leader like yourself has got to invest in yourself every once in a while to sharpen your leadership skills. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what you're doing to raise the level of your game these days?
Well, funny, it's the PBCA, talking to guys like you, and books. I won't touch a book. But that Audible thing is my next coming of how to educate myself.
It's pretty terrific, isn't it?
I mean, I'm telling you, I've lost 50 pounds because of Audible. And that's not a joke, because I couldn't walk a half a mile because I was bored.
Yeah.
But just slap on the headphones and start walking. I planned on going a 1 mile walk yesterday. I didn't have that much time. 3 miles.
Wow.
I did 3 miles. It's taking a book and listening to it, to me also, it's like a movie. I get to hear the author generally tell their story of their book, right? And they add tidbits. They actually throw stuff in that you don't get in the book.
Right.
And I love
Fantastic.
that. I love that. And so
that's great. Well, good for you. I'm glad that you're enjoying your Audible subscription. And you're right. The coaches in the Professional Business Coaches Alliance are some pretty powerful people. I spend a lot of time, like you do, just rubbing elbows with these folks and picking their brains, and they've done some amazing things over the years. As you're developing leaders within your coaching and consulting business, have you come to any conclusions about maybe 2 or 3 changes that a young aspiring leader might make if they want to improve their leadership skills? Do you have any advice for our folks today?
Anybody willing to make a change and that pain has finally gotten to you hard enough, it's all about your mindset. You can take the horse to the pond, but it ain't going to drink, right? You can't make it drink. You can have people that have so much pain they just never want to do anything about it, and that's just them. But there is a certain point where you have to be in your inner self to go, all right, I'm going to do whatever it takes, whether it's going broke to figure this out by hiring people, whether it's I'm going to figure it out on my own and start educating myself, whatever it takes. You have to just take the step one and mindset it that it's just going to continue. And I was kind of there after my appendix stuff. And I made it a point that I'm going to build my business to where it doesn't rely on me, but I'm also going to do it in a fact that I'm going to make everybody successful in their job. So everybody, Mike's first question is, what about me and my coaching? So if you want to know my specialty in coaching, it's not just service business. I've coached a pharmacy before, so I can coach anybody. Mm-hmm. But my specialty is certainly service, construction type businesses. But my specialty is systems.
Gotcha.
Any system I have for my own business. I mean, we developed a new system just 2 weeks ago. And I'm always looking, because when you're $1 million company, the systems that got you there are not going to get you to $5 million. And when you're at 5 million, those $5 million systems are not going to get you to 20. So you have to be constantly looking at where your systems are starting to lag as you grow and change them. I asked 10 of my clients that I've had for almost a year now to do a video review on me. Just send me a 1-minute review on me. That's all I wanted them to do. And every one of them goes, what do you want me to say? I said, no. This is about what you say. You tell me what I've done for you. I don't want to give you direction. You tell me. And the common theme from every one of them was I couldn't believe how much I had impacted their personal lives and how much better their business ran. And I don't look at their reports. I'm not a big checking their reports and looking at their incomes and all that kind of stuff. I'm just big on the systems and let the systems do it. Every one of them said I doubled their business in a year. I got $5 billion companies that are now doing 10 that worked with me for 8 months and they've doubled their business.
That's tremendous.
And here's the thing. They accredit it to me.
Right.
And I just kind of laugh for the next time I talk to them. It's like, well, that is so sweet you said that, but is it true? And they're all like, yeah, we're slowly growing, but nothing like what you've done with our business. Every one of them said that. And the sweetest one ever. I love it. I use it in my advertising coming out next week. He ends his review saying, we need more people like Chad in the world. And I actually had a tear in my eye. I was like, well, I couldn't believe you said that. We need more people like Chad in the world. It was great.
Well, working with as many clients as you do, you must notice some things that they get stuck behind, barriers, obstacles, that sort of thing. Have you noticed anything that some of your clients have maybe gotten slowed down by or even gotten stuck behind?
They're scared of their employees.
Okay. That doesn't sound good.
No, every one of them. Every single one of them are scared their employees are going to revolt on them as we make changes. And I'm not talking about when we first start. When we first start, they're all gung-ho. They're ready to change something, and they do it. It's when you get to the 8-9 months, and it's like, okay, let's work on your call center. We need to script them out. It's not just, thanks for calling XYZ. Hey, thanks for calling XYZ. Are you calling about a chimney or a wildlife service? And then you script them all the way through it, right? And they're like, well, they're not going to do that. They're all going to quit. I go, what? Why were they going to quit? Because you're telling them what to say. Your scripting's too long. I said, okay, let's listen to a recording on one that you have no script. Let's get one girl scripting right now. Get her good at scripting. And let's listen how long. Average 30 seconds less on the phone when you script it out, even though it looks long. Yeah. Because there's no questions. All the questions are answered in the script.
Right.
When it comes to chimney cleaning or furniture repairs, you're pretty much in the script telling them what you're going to go do, right? And so you're not leaving it up to, oh, thanks for calling XYZ. Oh, we're calling about a service. Oh, well, then the people start asking questions, right?
Right.
And so the phone call ends up being 5 minutes long. Well, if you script out 90 seconds and all of a sudden then it's, okay, when can we start? And so they've all been dumbfounded by that, but they're scared, to back to the question, they're completely scared of letting go. And typically their biggest offender is their biggest moneymaker. There are 2 or 3 guys that they feel if they had to replace them, they would start losing money. And the fact of the matter is those people might be doing that, but if you found people that are even not as good as them, but work harder and care about the company, you'll find that you're not going to lose any money. Every one of them. And that's the hardest struggle that I've had, probably in what we call 2.0, when you start your second year of guys trying to get the hard stuff done, because they've worked on all the stuff that they can do internally. Now it's starting to work on everybody else. And some of these people just shouldn't be there. And getting them on that mindset that they help you here, but they're not growing with you. And that growth has to occur with the company, not just you guys.
So at some point, when an owner of a company or a leader of a company is afraid that making positive changes is going to lead to some turnover and some resistance, you tell them, find your courage, keep plodding ahead. If you're doing the right thing, the good people are going to stay. Chad, what's the greatest leadership advice anybody's ever given to you? Do you happen to remember it?
Wow. It's funny being an entrepreneur on my own for so many years. I really don't recall a whole lot of anyone that's really given me that one stricken thing that really got me. I mean, the Michael E. Gerber book, obviously reading that, but that was after I had my success and started my coaching career. Okay. What was cool when I read Michael E. Gerber, to tell you the truth, it was like I was a version of him.
So you must be talking about the E-Myth or the E-Myth Revisited. Great book.
I actually just did a podcast with a gentleman that's been in the chimney industry 10 years longer than me. And I've known about him for years. He was actually the president of the certification There's two different big dueling certifications in the Chimney world, and he was on the one that's more prestigious, and I was always part of the littler one. And so we were always kind of like the little stepbrother type organization. It's growing to where they're being equal, but he was the president of that for years, and he's so humble. But I've never met him. I mean, we crossed paths when he was at a booth a couple times at shows, but we've never actually met, not on a friendly level. Mm-hmm. And so this one client said, you really got to meet this guy. And so I did. Actually, what happened is he asked me to be his friend on Facebook. It was like the beautiful day in my life. It was like, okay, and I'll just call his name Mark Stoner. He's a wonderful consultant for the Chimney world. He's out of Nashville. Anyway, I messaged him. I said, can we talk? Can we just have a phone call? He said, sure, tomorrow night, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'll be driving. Let's call. He actually ended up pulling over, and we talked for hours, and we laughed the whole time, because our shared experiences were so similar. And I've never had anybody I've ever met that had that similarity. And so we were both on each other's podcasts, and we're going to continue probably every couple of months doing each other's podcasts. And we also learn from each other so much as we talk. It's always fun to talk about the stories and, the war stories of your business. Sure. But then you also learn about some little systems that he did, some systems that I've done. He's already implemented a couple of mine. I've implemented a couple of his. We've only really known each other a month. So to me, to ask the question is more like, who am I going to meet and who I meet that is going to continue to give me more knowledge as I keep going. But as for the past, it was ingrained in me, and I would kind of sponge a little bit, but I really stayed in my own world growing my business.
Okay. You've mentioned that you're a big systems guy. And one of my questions for you today is, what's the best business or leadership book you've ever read? I got to imagine that Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited must be right up there on the list for you.
Well, is that an obsessed Grant Cardone? You either love him or hate him, but I'll tell you, that book, I read that on an airplane, and I'm a lot like that. So it was more of a confirmation of my personality of when I want to do something. 100% doesn't matter. 500% is me. Right. And I don't believe in 100%. And so if I'm not with my family and focusing on them, which is funny because I'm still kind of focusing on whatever I'm obsessed with. And so it's always a part of me as I'm doing it. One thing I have learned as I've grown up, your obsession has to become managed. Like you can't just 500% it all the time. You got to dial it to 400%. So I'm with my family, got to be with the family. Like, shut it off. I'm very well known for doing my own website, my own advertising, all that stuff. It's nothing for me to work 7 days a week and work till midnight on my computer for my websites. I enjoy it. I'm good at it. And I teach people to do it. I have no problem for someone hopping on a call with me while I'm doing something and learning how they do their website while I'm doing mine. I mean, Obsessed, Grant Cardone is a great book. Okay. I like it better than 10X.
Yeah, he's helped an awful lot of people over the years. Great author and a great leader. I'm curious what your favorite musical artist or band might be.
I have two eras of my life. I've got growing up, Guns N' Roses, GNR, Appetite for Destruction, the whole album, Sweet Child of Mine, best song ever written. And then as of the last 3 years, I mean, Luke Combs, man, on repeat. I mean, he's in my playlist, and it's just all Luke Combs in my truck.
Fantastic. So you've got some eclectic tastes.
Here's a funny story. So I have 3 different channels I've made on Spotify, right? I've got Sunday Morning, which my guys at the cabin, when they're all, they hate it. Because it is, you want to talk about collective. It's anything from The Pretenders to Garth Brooks to Megadeth to old hard country. I mean, it's everything. But then there's that soft stuff, like Christopher Cross is in there. And they're like, what are we listening to? And it's like, it's the world. We're listening to everything. A little Sailing Away from Styx all the way down to, all of a sudden you got some like death metal song that I have that I like or something. It's just crazy.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're going to take a break here and listen for a word from our sponsors, and then we'll be back in just a moment with Chad Murray. Hello, this is Michael Beach with Michael Beach Coaching and Consulting. I want to tell you today about lots of free things that we can provide for you at no cost that are going to be incredibly valuable. If you're an aspiring leader or you want to learn more about developing leadership within your organization, you can follow us on LinkedIn. We put blogs out monthly, posts out almost daily. We have a YouTube channel, Michael Beach Coaching and Consulting, that has a series of videos on leadership and accountability and many others. Of course, you can subscribe to this podcast. In addition, you can send us a message at info@michaelbeachcoach.com, and we'll be happy to sign you up for our monthly newsletter, where we always include free tools for everyone who signs up for the newsletter, and we tell you what's going on at our company. Again, this is Michael with michaelbeachcoach.com, and we are looking forward to you signing up and subscribing to our blog, our video, our podcast, or our newsletter. Thanks. All right, we're back from the break. I'm here with Chad Murray, an executive business coach down in the great state of Texas. Chad, it's been a lot of fun talking with you today. My next question for you is about core values. When you're coaching companies that are on that fast growth trajectory, how important are things like core values to that organization? How important are things like emotional intelligence?
That's a great question. I mean, I actually have my own little system when it comes to core values. And what I do is I mix your keywords into your mission statement. And what I've come across from listening to a bunch of books and put my own system together is how you advertise, hire, train, and manage all off of that mission statement. And it's a real system that I try to get every one of my companies get a mission statement on the wall, because you got to reference it. And it's not on a wall, it's on every wall. So your ad has all the core value statements, keywords in it. So then when you go to interview, you use these words because these people are attracted to the same values you have because they answered the ad, right?
Right.
So then you make them very aware that they answered this unique ad, because it doesn't just say we're hiring and we're offering this and when you want to start for how much. It says your story and it says all this different things and how you really do a good ad. And so then when you bring them in for an interview, you're talking about the core values. We'll show our mission statement and let them read it, and we talk about it. And then when they get hired, they go through a whole day of learning it and going through some training. And then when they get out on the trucks, we make sure that they talk about it. And then when they do stuff right and wrong, we're constantly going. Like, we use the word wonderful employees. We hire wonderful employees. So I've trained my management staff that when someone's not being wonderful, we remind them of, why aren't you being a wonderful employee, in some other statement or whatever it's directed to the action that they did. And so it sparks them when they came. So you're always referencing, well, you told me you were this guy when you hired. Now, aren't you being this guy now? I mean,
interesting.
Was that a fake thing that when you hired you? Was that someone else? Or are you really that person? And it hits them in the head. And you do get long-term employees when you start the system of constantly talking to them about who they are, not about the job. I'm constantly reminding them that you're this guy. Remember, you told me you were this guy.
Right.
Don't be who you're acting like now. I need you to be the guy I hired. You'll see their eyes turn on.
Yeah.
I mean, because they'll turn off, but you'll watch the switch get flipped, and it's like, wow, that worked. I've had my general manager and other people that I've trained to say, that really does work. But here's the thing. It's the work in from the owners to do it. And you talk about the struggle of some of the things. That's another struggle I have, is trying to get the value of the system to work, because it's just a system. No systems work if you don't work it, right? So culture has many systems. And to get culture to work, you have to believe and work the system of culture. And that's where a lot of people don't get it. So we made it to $2.5 million in my Chimney company like 7 or 8 years ago. And I was dead. I thought there's no way I could this is when I was still running the business. There was still no way in Dallas I could ever do $5 million. It's impossible. Well, I invested in some better systems or some better equipment and upgrading, trained our guys how to do better sales, and we just really started working on culture. We doubled our sales in 1 year. We went to a little over $4 million the next year with the same customer acquisition we had the year before.
Terrific.
And I'll tell you, I've done it with all my other companies. It's like, of course, they're working on systems, and their systems that are upgraded. But it's like a dog can sense fear. Customers can sense fear, or uneducated people in there just trying to get a check out of them. They can feel it. And so it's the same thing. I always tell people the circle of life of business. When I first start training you, I don't know where we're going to start in this circle, but just trust me. I have a hard time putting a lot of it into words of where this comes in, where it all comes encompassing together. Mm-hmm. So just trust me. If you're going to hire me, just trust me, and there'll be a day your epiphany will happen where you're like, oh, I get it now. It all comes together.
Yeah. Wonderful. Chad, when you're recruiting leaders to an organization, what are some of the characteristics and traits that you're looking for when you're thinking about adding somebody to your team?
It's just like everybody else. I'm looking for the integrity. I kind of have a one lie thing. If you lie to me once, I don't have a number two. My wife and I made a video, and then John and I made a video, my general manager, that everybody watches when they first get hired with us. My wife and I's video is like 8 minutes long, and I think John and I's is like 6. Mm-hmm. It's really funny. We go negative. I tell people everything positive about the company real quick, but then I get on about a 1 minute thing going, this is what we don't tolerate. If you're any one of these, do not accept the position because you're going to do it and we're going to let you go. If you lie to us, we don't have a strike 2.
Yeah.
I just don't do it. And it's really funny. All these values of integrity, and it doesn't even matter what word you use. You just know who you're looking for when you're doing it. And when you find it, you have to manage the people to make sure they're like that.
Yeah.
Because they're going to show their true selves no matter what. But I've actually seen some turnarounds too. I've seen some guys that have literally come into our organization, probably shouldn't have been hired. And then we gave them the structure that they never had before and the mentorship of a good job, good pay, a living, a career, not just, I clean chimneys for a living. No, you have advancement here. And they never had a hell of a job for 6 months, more or less a year, have been with me 3 to 5 years. And so we just don't tolerate it. And so one of the greatest things is I call it the silent management system. It's your culture that when somebody comes in, they see how everybody else is, right? And you feel it. You show up and you feel it. Here's a great mini little story real quick. One of my clients has got a culture problem, and we've been working on it for a while. And he actually got upset with me about a month ago and says, you just like firing people, and there's no way your company's like you're coaching this. I said, okay. And who do you want me to call in my company? You name them. I don't care. I'll call anybody you want. General manager to a helper. Who do you want me to call? He goes, call your call center manager. All right. Call her up. I said, ask her anything you want. Anything. He goes, how much drama do you have there? She starts laughing. We don't have any drama here. None. He goes, how's your call scripting? My girls don't do it. She goes, our calls time's gone down and our customer acquisition's gone up. Okay. He goes, I don't want to talk to her anymore. We say goodbye. Let me talk to a helper. The newest helper had been with us 3 months. We called it the lead tech, said, put the helper on. I said, put him on. I said, hey, this is Chad. I'm your boss. I don't know if you know who I am. He goes, yeah, I know who you are. And he goes, great video. And I didn't know if he was talking about my wife or me and John. He goes, great videos, and so, okay, great. He goes, I need you to talk to one of my clients. Did you know I'm a business coach? Yeah, I know. I said, I want you to talk to one of them. So I put him on, and this guy just starts drilling this kid. And the kid's just saying everything right. And he goes, all right, thank you. Gets off the phone. And he looks at his partner, and we're on a Zoom call, and he goes, what should we do here? And the other partner goes, we just need to listen to Chad. That's so funny.
That's a great story. Well, hey, I've got time for one more question. Let me ask you this one. What would you like to recommend to our listeners about investing in others so that they can help to develop those others as great leaders? Any advice you have?
Yeah, do it.
Do it.
Don't stop thinking about it.
Okay.
Just whatever. I mean, I can't tell you where to go. I mean, I don't really have a place to say, go do this, or an organization to go do. Just help somebody. I mean, if you see somebody who wants to be a leader, or you have a leader already, just spend 5 minutes and talk to them more. Just do something.
I love it.
That's kind of what I try to tell everybody. It's like, the whole world needs you to do something. I don't know what your something is. You figure out your something. Just
Marvelous.
Do something.
That's tremendous advice. Don't stop talking about it, stop thinking about it, and do something about it. I love it. I get the strong feeling, Chad, that you are a man of action. Well, Chad, thank you so much for taking time to join me today for this episode of What Are You Doing? Our listeners had a front row seat today, and they got a lot of great ideas that you shared with them. Thank you for that. Really appreciate your interview today, and I'm sure it's going to help our listeners to implement some of those ideas that'll take their company and their leadership to the next level. Our next episode is going to be released soon, and we'll be interviewing another great leader who's changing the game for fast growth companies and emerging leaders. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us, and please reach out to us at info@michaelbeachcoach.com if you've got a great suggestion for a future episode guest, or if you'd like to maybe become a featured guest yourself. Check out our videos on our YouTube channel if you'd like some additional leadership nuggets. And we want to thank you, listeners, for being regular listeners of our What Are You Doing podcast. We're going to look forward to seeing you at our next episode. Until then, remember, start working to become the person you've always wanted to be by investing in yourself and invest in the team around you. You'll never regret it. If you believe in yourself and you believe the best about everyone you work with, things just have a way of working out for the best. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.